and welcome into the Draft Seminar Rookie Profile Series hosted by myself, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, and John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar. This is the Treylon Burks Rookie Profile, and I am fired up to talk about Treylon Burks, the absolute unicorn of a prospect out of Arkansas. The entire Rookie Profile series can be found on the Rookie Big Board YouTube channel, as well as simulcast on the NFL Draft Bible Podcast Network and the Rookie Big Board Podcast channel. Before we jump into things, want to make sure you know you can check out all of John's work at footballdiehards.com, and you can check out all of my work, including the 2022 Rookie Big Board rankings at patreon.com/the FF Educator. John, no further ado, let's dig into the absolute favorite prospect here, Treylon Burks.
Matt, last summer in Devy mock drafts, campus to Canton drafts, college fantasy football drafts, dynasty drafts, I kept pontificating about the greatness of Treylon Burks. And man, did it come to fruition this year for the Razorbacks playmaker. He earned first team All-SEC and Maxwell Award watch list. Matt, he had 66 receptions for 1,104 yards and 11 touchdowns. 6 games with over 100 yards receiving, and I dare our viewers to name the quarterback of Arkansas. I can because I play college fantasy football, but most can't. And the quarterback was a better runner than thrower, and he was a sophomore. Incredible numbers by Treylon Burks with the quarterback and the offense that he played in. And I know you're not supposed to scout one game or just ceiling, but if you want to see the ceiling of Treylon Burks, watch the game against Alabama, Matt. 8 receptions, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. He went out against Nick Saban and that Crimson Tide secondary, and he just performed like a star. He was unbelievable. But we even go back in 2020, second team All-SEC, and he was SEC academic honor roll. And immediately as a freshman, Matt, he made an impact. He was second team All-SEC punt returner and kick returner and all freshman team. Treylon Burks has been great from day one when he walked onto that campus. He concluded his career as the 6th most productive receiver with 2,399 receiving yards. And in high school, he was a 4-star prospect and two-way player. He played defense. He was the top wide receiver in Arkansas and number 11 wide receiver in the nation. Matt, what did your film study say about Treylon Burks?
There's a lot of good in his tape review here. Overall tape score of 81.9, very high for a wide receiver. It has to begin with his athleticism, John. The fluidity for his size is absolutely incredible here. He's a physical wideout and fantastic vertical ability. Arkansas put the ball in Burks' hands any way they could. They lined him up split in. They lined him up out wide. They put him in motion. They had him take handoffs from the backfield. John, does this sound like any very popular high-value fantasy football player currently dominating the landscape here? Treylon Burks has the ability to be a game changer for fantasy football, and it starts with his athleticism. But, John, the speed is fantastic as well. He speeds up very quickly off the line of scrimmage, and his acceleration is phenomenal. Does very well accelerating in a straight line, but he's a very smooth runner through the deep third of the field here. He can dominate underneath, but that translates downfield as well, and that's one of the things that I look for in a wide receiver that not everybody does. How do they perform in that deep third of the field? And his speed allows him to separate down there very well. His handwork is fantastic, very reliable hands, and a great catch radius. But it's not just about his length here. He has great body positioning. You can see him box out defensive backs very well to go up and make some big man catches. Now, the one that probably everybody is going to watch when they see the Treylon Burks highlights, it's that Mississippi catch. He goes up through double coverage here. And part of it is his vertical ability. Part of it is his hands, but it's body positioning too, John. He has an understanding of where to put himself in a place to succeed. Now, everybody's tape review gets the well-rounded side of things, right? So what's the downside? The route running is raw. And that's what I'm going to say about it. It needs to be improved, but that is a category that I traditionally weigh lower than most other folks because it's something that is easily coached up at the next level to a degree as they work around your route running ability, right? And so he just has a limited route tree. And so he needs to be able to develop that out, but he's got good footwork. He does have the ability to separate, which is the biggest part. He needs to work on his release a little bit here, but overall, a very exciting tape review here for Treylon Burks. But what do the numbers tell us?
Matt, if you know me, I don't do a lot of comps, but I will say this. When I watch Treylon Burks, he's an interesting amalgamation of Courtland Sutton, DK Metcalf, and Deebo Samuel. You shake those three up, you're going to get Treylon Burks is going to come out. And one thing that I've learned over the 9 years doing this, how does the player win? Yes, you could talk about raw route running. You could even maybe discuss separation. But how does Treylon Burks win? He just wins a lot, Matt. He just wins with so many physicality, speed, strength. And Matt, here's my favorite statistic of this draft class. One of them. I have a lot of favorite stats. His hands are so big, they have to order special gloves for him. He's a 5XL. Like, I don't even know what that means. But when you watch him, his hands are unbelievably huge. And when you plug him in the numbers, he pops, Matt. Look at the last season. 41% team aerial dominator rating. Everyone had to stop Treylon Burks, and they couldn't. 72% catch rate. That is so impressive when you consider the offense he plays in the quarterback. Unbelievable. And look at his career numbers, Matt. 147 receptions. I would love to see it over 150, but I'll say this. He's in the margin of error, and he's not playing in a dynamic offense like Alabama, LSU. And he's playing against SEC West competition. Matt, I become biased towards SEC West wide receivers. They're playing top-level competition in practice. They're playing against top defensive backs in the nation on Saturdays. There's a lot to be said about SEC West wide receivers. And Burks was great. Look at that. 16.4 yards per catch. We discussed it with Drake London. He didn't have that high of a mark. Treylon Burks, he gets open deep and he wins with speed. 19 career touchdowns. He's 6'3", 225. Let me repeat that. 6'3", 225. And Matt, he looks 6'3" and 225. Like sometimes when you watch someone, you're like, is the school overrating them? When you watch Treylon Burks, you're like, no. And what I like about it, you said it. He has stupendous second-level vision. That kick returning, punt returning skill takes over deep down the field, and his yak yards are amazing. Love Treylon Burks. What else do our viewers need to know, Matt?
Let's talk about his fantasy football projection here, John. I have him projected out to be a league-winning wide receiver here. That means he has wide receiver one potential. So I currently project Treylon Burks to be in that low-end wide receiver one range. We're talking wide receiver 8 to 12 overall by the time he finishes his rookie season here. So I expect a quick impact. We've seen the wide receiver position have that quick impact. think he's going to be an absolute league winner. I'm very high on him. For NFL draft purposes, I currently have him projected out to be a day one mid pick. That is 10 to 20 overall. I would be surprised if we get into the 20s, John, and Treylon Burks is still on the board. I think he has an absolute shot to be the first wide receiver drafted here in the 2022 NFL draft, which of course will push up his draft capital and fantasy football value. My ADP projection is if you want him, you better be ready to use the first overall pick on him, because in non-superflex leagues, he's going 101. And John, you might even be in a superflex league where Treylon Burks comes off the board 101 this year. That's how talented he is. But I'm going to go up and I'm going to do what I have to do to get that 101 or top 3 selection in a superflex so that I can go and get Treylon Burks, because this is a guy that I need to draft. I'm not going to be able to afford to trade for him later, and neither are our listeners. But what our listeners can do, John, is make sure they check out the entire rookie profile series here by liking this video, subscribing if you're watching the video version, or subscribing on either of the audio podcast channels. Leave us a 5-star review. And as always, we appreciate you checking out this episode